The first thing Princess Esserin of the Iridari noticed about the human was that he did not bow correctly. Every diplomat who entered the Crystal Hall of Luminar Station had studied Iridari etiquette. One knee lowered, for hands pressed together, head tilted precisely 7 degrees to show respect. Even species with only 2 arms learned to imitate it. They practiced for weeks before arrival. The human just stood there. Not arrogantly, no. Esserin could recognize arrogance. This was different. He looked around the glowing hall with naked curiosity, as if he had wandered into a museum rather than the throne chamber of an interstellar empire. His posture was relaxed, his hands shoved into the pockets of a simple dark uniform. No weapons. No visible tech implants. No diplomatic sash. A murmur rippled through the court. Esserin clicked her tongue softly. "You are the representative of Earth?" "Yes," he said. "Name's Elias Ward. Scientific liaison. I was told to speak with whoever's in charge." The translator orb hovering beside him struggled to soften his blunt phrasing into Iridari politeness. It failed. Whispers grew louder. Esserin leaned forward, luminous violet eyes narrowing. "And you do not kneel?" Elias blinked.
"Oh.
Was I supposed to?"
Sorry.
"Nobody sent me a memo." A few nobles hissed in outrage. A pair of armored guardians flexed their energy spears. Esserin raised a hand for silence. Something about this human fascinated her. Not fearlessness. Not disrespect. Something stranger. He genuinely didn't know he was breaking sacred protocol. Interesting.
2.
Later, in the garden atrium overlooking a star-filled river, Esserin studied him again. She had invited him under the pretense of diplomatic orientation, but curiosity guided her more than duty. Elias leaned against a railing, sipping synth tea as if relaxing in a park back home. "So," he said, "your empire runs half the Orion arm. That's impressive." Esserin's crest flared softly. It was built over millennia, through conquest and unity. "Yeah, humans are still arguing about parking spaces," Elias said. She almost laughed. Almost. Iridari princesses did not laugh in public. Instead, she said, "Your species is young, barely admitted into the Galactic Concord, and yet you were sent alone to represent them?" Elias shrugged. Earth thought sending a battleship might send the wrong message. "I volunteered." "You are unarmed." "Mostly." He tapped his chest pocket. A tiny metal cylinder rested there. Erin glanced at it. A weapon. A music player. The concept puzzled her. Why carry music into a diplomatic mission? The more she observed him, the more anomalies appeared. He spoke freely. He asked questions no one dared ask. He looked directly into her eyes without flinching. Yet beneath the casual humor, she sensed grief, quiet, old, carefully hidden. Humans, she thought, were strange. 3 nights later, the sky over Luminar Station erupted into alarms. A tear opened in subspace. A fleet of Carthax raiders poured through, biomechanical horrors that devoured worlds. The Concorde's defense grid fired, but the raiders moved like liquid darkness, slipping through gaps in the energy lattice. Esserin stood in the command spire as officers shouted. Her father, Emperor Valor, roared orders. Shields collapsed. Towers burned. "This station will fall," Valor said grimly. "Prepare evacuation of the royal bloodline." Esserin's heart clenched. Evacuation meant abandoning millions. Then a calm voice cut through the chaos. "Give me access to your defense network." Elias stood at the doorway, still wearing his plain uniform, hair tousled from sleep. Valor stared. "You are a single human." Elias nodded.
"Yeah.
"But I brought something Earth's been working on." He held up the small cylinder. "A music player?"
Esrin said.
He smiled. A quantum harmonic disruptor disguised as one. The guards aimed spears at him. Valor hesitated. Esrin stepped forward. Let him try. Her father studied her, then nodded. Do it. 4. Elias plugged the device into the command console. Light flared. A low hum resonated through the station. What does it do?
Esrin asked.
It sings, Elias said. A sound poured through the air, impossible harmonies layered in patterns that made Esrin's crest shiver. It was not just sound, it was vibration in the structure of space itself. The Carthax raiders shrieked. On the tactical display, their ships flickered, outlines breaking apart like mist in sunlight. One by one, they collapsed inward, imploding into silent sparks. Within minutes, the invasion was over. The command spire stood frozen in disbelief. Valor turned to Elias. What have you done? Elias unplugged the device gently. We found that certain harmonic frequencies destabilize Carthax biocores. We couldn't deploy it on a large scale yet. But a station's network amplifier? That works. He slipped the device back into his pocket. Esrin realized her hands were shaking. A single human. A device disguised as music. An entire fleet erased. Humanity was not weak. It was merely quiet. Until now.
5.
Celebrations filled Luminar Station. Esrin attended out of duty, but her thoughts stayed fixed on the human who had saved them all. She found Elias alone on a balcony, looking at the stars. You should be surrounded by admirers, she said. Not really my thing, he replied. Crowds make me itchy. Esrin joined him. The galaxy stretched before them like a living map. My people owe you everything, she said. My father wishes to grant you titles.
Wealth.
A place in our court. Elias smiled faintly. I'm not great with thrones. Or kneeling. She allowed herself a small smirk. I noticed. Silence settled. Then Elias said softly, I didn't come here just for diplomacy. Esrin turned to him. His eyes were distant now. There was a woman once, he said. A pilot. She died during a Carthax attack. I promised myself if I ever found a way to stop them, I would. No matter what. Esrin felt a pang. So that was the grief. You honored her, she said. Yeah, he whispered. But saving everyone, it doesn't bring her back. His voice broke. Iridari culture did not allow touching without ceremony. Yet Esrin reached out, resting her luminous hand on his arm. You carry pain quietly, she said. That is a strength among your kind. Elias looked up. Princess. I need to tell you something. 6. The words he spoke next would later be called the impossible confession. I think, Elias said, that I've fallen in love with you. The air froze. Stars shimmered. Station lights pulsed. Somewhere distant music played. Esrin's mind reeled. Humans were short-lived, fragile, chemically chaotic. Their emotions flared like supernovae and burned out just as fast. Iridari bonded for life once, sometimes for centuries. For a human to confess love to an Iridari princess was not merely improbable. It was forbidden. Elias, she said slowly, you understand nothing of what you ask. He nodded. I figured. If I accepted such a bond, I would outlive you by centuries. I know. My court would see you as a curiosity, a political weakness. I know. You will die. Long before I do. Elias looked at her, eyes steady. I still wanted you to know. His impossible confession hung between them like a fragile crystal. Esrin's heart, which had never known such turmoil, pulsed wildly. She could dismiss him.
She should.
But she did not.
7.
The next day, word of the confession reached the royal council. Iridari ears were sharp. Rumors traveled faster than light. Valor summoned his daughter to the imperial chamber. "You have been seen with a human," he said. You allowed him familiarity. Esserin met his gaze. "He saved your empire." Valor's crest darkened. "That does not grant him the right to aspire to you." "He did not demand," she said. "He confessed. Then it must be ended." Esserin felt a rare spark of defiance. "He is leaving soon. Let him go in peace." Valor considered her. "If you show attachment, I will send him away under guard." Esserin bowed. "As you command." But her mind raced.
8.
That night, she found Elias preparing to depart. "I heard," he said before she spoke. "Your father isn't thrilled." She sighed. Politics rarely welcomes sincerity. Elias smiled sadly. "I didn't expect anything. I just couldn't leave without telling you." Esserin studied him. His short lifespan, his fleeting emotions, his species barely stepping onto the galactic stage. And yet his courage, his honesty, his music that destroyed monsters. "Iridari do not love often," she said. "But when we do, it is eternal." Elias looked down. "I don't want to chain you to a ghost." Esserin stepped closer. "Then do not die," she said simply. He blinked. "That's the tall order." "Iridari possess longevity technologies," she said.
"Rare.
"Forbidden to outsiders. But not impossible." Elias stared. "You do that." Esserin's crest glowed like sunrise. "For the one who saved my people. And for the one who dared speak truth to a princess." He exhaled a shaky laugh. "Guess my confession really did reach the right ears." 9 months passed. Human and Iridari scientists worked together in secret labs. Ethics councils argued. Concord ambassadors protested. But progress advanced faster than politics. At last, in a chamber of light, Elias stood surrounded by Iridari healers. Thrin waited outside, heart racing. Hours later, he emerged, unchanged to the eye, yet altered at the cellular level. His lifespan extended. His biology harmonized with Iridari longevity matrices. He looked at his hands. "I feel the same." "You will," Esserin said, "for a very long time." He smiled. "Then I suppose I'll finally have time to learn how to kneel properly." She laughed then.
Truly laughed.
Court etiquette be damned.
10.
Years later, the story spread across the Concord. The human who sang the Carthax to death. The princess who defied tradition. The impossible confession that reshaped alliances. Humans were no longer seen as naive newcomers. They were creators of wonders, carriers of strange courage, singers of impossible songs. And in the luminous gardens of Luminar Station, a princess and a human walked beneath the stars, their hands entwined. "Do you regret it?" Elias asked once. Esserin leaned against him. "Regret? Choosing a human." She tilted her head. "You saved my empire. You opened my heart. You changed the fate of galaxies." She smiled softly. "If that is regret, then I welcome it." 11. Far beyond, in the dark between stars, something stirred. A surviving fragment of the Carthax signal whispered through subspace. It remembered the harmonic song. It feared the human, and it began to evolve. But that was a story for another time. For now, the impossible confession had rewritten destiny, and humanity's quiet voice had become the galaxy's greatest song. The first century passed quietly, not in boredom but in wonder. Elias Ward, once a single human envoy with a device in his pocket, became something new in the history of both their peoples. He did not age as humans once did. His hair silvered slowly, like moonlight on steel. His heartbeat settled into the measured rhythm of iridari longevity matrices. He walked beside Princess Esserin through decades that would have outlived every friend he had ever known back on Earth. And yet humanity did not fade from him. He still smiled too quickly. He still laughed too loudly. He still carried music everywhere, though now the device in his pocket played harmless melodies rather than harmonic weapons. Esserin loved that about him most. He remained human. 13. In time, Elias was invited to stand before the Galactic Concord. Delegates from 1,000 species gathered. They expected another iridari ceremony, rigid, formal, ritual-bound. Instead, a human stepped forward. "I'm Elias Ward," he said. "Some of you know me as the guy who broke a Carthax fleet with a song. But that's not why I'm here." He looked across the assembly. Humanity isn't strong because we're the biggest or the oldest. We're strong because we try. We fail. We hurt. We lose people we love, and we still get back up. His words were simple, honest, unpolished, and they struck deeper than any practiced speech. When he finished, silence held the chamber. Then Esserin, seated beside the imperial throne, rose and bowed to him, not as a princess to a subject, but as an equal to an equal. From that day forward, humans were no longer considered a fragile newcomer species. They were recognized as something rarer, a species that dared impossible confessions and made them real. 14. Years later, on a quiet evening, Elias and Esserin stood again on the balcony where everything had begun. Stars drifted like embers across the infinite dark. "Do you ever miss Earth?" Esserin asked. Elias thought for a long moment. "I miss people," he said.
Friends.
The smell of rain on pavement. Bad coffee. Loud arguments about nothing. He chuckled softly. "But I don't miss who I was before. Back then, I thought the universe was something to survive." He turned to her. "Now I think it's something to share." Esserin rested her forehead against his. "You have changed my people," she whispered. "You have changed me." He grinned. "All from forgetting to kneel properly." She laughed, luminous and free. 15. But peace never lasts forever in the galaxy. Decades after the Carthax defeat, strange signals began flickering at the edge of known space. Distorted harmonics. Half-remembered echoes of the song Elias, once used as a weapon. The Carthax were not gone. They were learning. Esserin watched the data scroll across a holoscreen. Elias stood beside her, hands in his pockets, gaze steady. "Well," he said, "looks like the universe wants an encore." Esserin's crest flared with fierce light. "Then we will sing again."
16.
And so the legend passed into history. The human who carried music that killed monsters. The princess who chose a fragile species over eternal tradition. The impossible confession that rewrote galactic destiny. Across star systems, young iridari whispered tales of Esserin's courage. On Earth, children learned of Elias Ward, the man who taught the galaxy that humans were more than survivors. They were creators, dreamers, singers of impossible songs. Final line. In the vast silence of space, where fear once ruled, a melody now lingered, and the universe listened.